Good morning. My name is Greg Pierce. I'm the chair of the Fine Art Department at Heritage University in Toppenish, Washington. We would like to acknowledge that we're coming to you from the traditional lands of the first people of our valley, the 14 Confederated tribes and bands of the Yakima Nation. And we honor with gratitude the land itself and the Yakima tribe. This afternoon, as part of our celebration for Black History Month, we have a very special donation that was given to our art collection that we are featuring today. And this collection is from Barbara Johns and Richard Hiesick in Seattle, Washington. And we would like to express our gratitude for their generous donation of this piece and many others that they have also been very giving to Heritage University as part of their enriching our art collection here on campus. Today, we are going to be looking at a piece by artist Marita Dingus. And this piece, titled Black Figure with Skirt and Cross, was done in 2005. Marita Dingus is an artist who lives and works in Seattle, and she has a lot of different accolades and accomplishments in her career over the years. She is also represented by Traver Gallery in Seattle, and she has a show currently at the Vashon Center for the Arts in Vashon Island, Washington. Welcome to the Virginia Hislop Gallery at Heritage University in Toppenish. We are here today for a class that is going to help to think about where to place artwork on campus from our permanent collection. So in this case, we have a piece that is been generously donated from two patrons in Seattle, Barbara Johns and Richard Hiesick. And they have been generous in donating this piece by Marita Dingus, who is a Seattle artist. And this piece is Black Figure with Cross and Skirt, is the title of it. It was created in 2005, and we're going to be having a discussion about this piece in much more depth. The other thing that this class will be doing is placing some other works that were also generously donated by the same couple who live in Seattle and have collected artwork for some time. So you'll see a range of different artwork that they've donated, as well as other people over the years of time. So my name is Greg Pierce. I'm the chair of the Fine Art Department. I'm joined today with Carolyn Nelson, who was the former chair of the art department here at Heritage University. And these are students that are in a class that is going to, again, learn about collection, acquisition, and management in organizations and universities. So I'd like to welcome everybody to our discussion today. And to that end, I'd like to begin by having everybody kind of gather around and look at this piece. So come in a little bit closer. And what do you guys think are some of the ideas that you first respond to, or what are some questions that you have when you're looking at this piece? So what are some questions that you guys have, or observations about this piece?
I was wondering, I'm deciding if it's like an infant or a toddler. You know, because of the size, it could be an infant, and it could also be a toddler for having all that movement within the washers that is on the skirt.
So basically, you're trying to guess whether or not this is an adult or a child to begin with, as a figure?
I mean, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good question. What are some things you guys think in response to that? We'll look at the work a little bit more here too.
I'm just wondering why they use the washers on the skirt, like a ton of washers on the skirt.
Yeah, that is interesting. So do you think, are the washers maybe significant for some reason?
Probably like a charcoal skirt.
Can you describe that a little bit more? What's the relationship with a tribal skirt? In
I'm
terms of,
not really too familiar on the different tribal skirt, but
yeah,
I've seen like different other tribal skirts with like shells or something all over their skirts.
right.
Is that just to create like some sort of sound? There you go.
Yeah,
And do you think this would make sound if this moved?
probably.
Yeah. That's definitely one thing that was kind of discussed a little bit earlier on before we started this recording. So there is something, although we can't hear it now, we can sort of have an auditory memory or idea of what that might sound like if the figure were to move. That's interesting. What else about the materials have you guys found that's interesting with this piece? I'm going to zoom into the piece a little bit closer now too, so people from home can take a closer look at it. Oh, do this here. How's that?
A little bit more.
A little bit more right there. Okay. So is there something else with the materials that you guys have noticed?
For myself, I noticed the cross right away. Like when I first looked at the sculpture, and like for myself, I was kind of curious about what it meant because a cross can mean so many different things, and especially with the size, because like kind of like a chest level cross. And I was like, for me, I thought maybe it could be like faith, hope, or something around that line. But
Right.
I'm still kind of curious what it could really mean.
Yeah, and you're right about that. I mean, the cross is universally has a lot of different ideas and meanings, right, that are created with it.
I really like your idea of the proportions
Mhm.
being something significant to you, because that's always something as an artist is thinking about. Is, should I make it small? Should,
Yeah.
make it have so that it has a symbol?
Yeah, because I
That's
noticed
really
how big it was at first.
Yeah, that's a good observation.
Yeah, it's like the cross is bigger than the face, really, in proportion, in relation to it. What are some other aspects of this piece that you guys find interesting? I'm going to pull back a little bit more. You guys can come a little bit closer too. What are some other ideas that come to mind when you look at this? Is there something interesting about the body? Is there something interesting about the face?
And the herd dog.
I found the body interesting
Yeah,
in the form of like a doll. In both African cultures,
Mhm.
there's a lot of significance of dolls, but in
Okay.
American culture as well. It was kind of bringing back memories of like Jim Crow era, when we would make racist dolls of Black characters, and so it was reminding me of that.
right. So you're getting a sense it feels almost like a caricature in some way?
Yeah, kind of
Awesome.
referencing that, but maybe reclaiming what happened to their dolls.
Right.
I think my first response seeing this piece, because I was here late tonight, just working on stuff.
Yeah.
I saw it it was really dark.
Yeah.
Pitch black, I saw it, it kind of jumped.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's not something, a piece that makes you feel very relaxed or calm. It's not calming necessarily, is it?
Well, I think
Or-
in pitch black, it's like, whoa, what is that?
Right. In particular, also, what do you think of the face, Shelby, in terms of the image of that face? How do you respond to that image?
Last night I didn't see the face as clear, but now that I do, it looks more like they're kind of in distress or stress,
Yeah,
a little bit overwhelmed.
right. It definitely doesn't appear like a happy face in any way, right?
It almost looks like an ultrasound.
Oh, interesting. That's a cool observation.
Yeah, and it looks like it was either cut up or something, like especially like from here. You can see like it's smushed together, like the paper itself.
And what do you guys think of actually some of the details in the figure itself? What are some things in the figure that you notice that's maybe more kind of, you know, we've talked about it being doll-like to some extent, but what are some other things that you guys think about in terms of some of the aspects of the figure?
Well, I went with doll because it doesn't have hands or feet. You know, it kind of looks like we're going with like Aaron's thought of like an infant. When you put like an infant in like a onesie or something, sometimes it completely covers up. the
Right,
hands
right.
and feet.
Yeah, I noticed too, there's one foot that's kind of apparent, but then the other leg doesn't have a foot on it, right? In some ways. So that's interesting. Could we relate back to maybe the expression on the face? Is there any relationship between the expression on the face and the body?
Maybe the figure wasn't fully developed. I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah, yeah. It's not fully developed because why?
Because, I mean, it's missing, it looks like it's missing part of the foot.
Right,
You can maybe say that for the arm, it's missing a little bit of the arm.
yeah,
So maybe it wasn't like fully developed in the womb, in a sense, I guess.
Interesting.
I think there's the fact that it's flat too. It's not very cuddly. Allison was talking about a doll. So that might be something the artist was thinking about, making a decision that was flat.
Instead of adding like,
Yeah, so,
Adding depth,
yeah.
yeah. Karen, what are some things you were thinking about some really interesting ideas when we were having an informal discussion about it the other day? What are some ideas that you've had too?
Well, I talked about last time how the face and the body seem attached. Because even though they're kind of like on the same like color scale,
Yeah,
like it's paper and you mentioned how like kind of crumbled it looks like.
right. Yeah, it doesn't look like, you know, the face in the image. I mean, you could see like sort of the cracks and the breaks in the photo. So do you guys think, where do you think the source of that image came from?
For me, it looks like it came from a photograph, but they cut it out.
Yeah. Would we think it's a contemporary photograph or a historic photograph?
Contemporary.
Contemporary? Why would you think that?
I'm not too sure, actually. I just thought contemporary.
Okay, okay.
That's funny. For me, it's more reminiscent of something that's older. And that may just be the color, maybe the grayscale of it.
Because I know some magazines for contemporary art, they use grayscale to bring out a certain, maybe a color in that picture.
Right. That's the left camera. Let's go for it.
because I got myself trying to.
There we go. Let's switch back. Okay.
You want to just stay on something.
Yeah, probably it'd be easier to stay on there.
Alright.
So, and the other thing too that we were talking about is kind of the quality of the materials, right? There's not like anything there's no precious metals that are being used, right? So what do we think about the use of the materials? You know, Aaron, too, you were talking about some of the qualities of the fabric
Yeah.
the other day, and so can you talk a little more about that? What were some of the qualities of the fabric that you were?
Well, the carpet is not new, it's run down. So maybe there's some age, in it,
Yeah, yeah,
implies some age.
right,
Along with the washers, there's a lot of rust on them, broken parts. So that can signify, time that has passed as well.
yeah.
So,
Or things that are maybe discarded that are being recycled in some way, or,
Yeah,
yeah. Definitely, that's good. And, definitely when we look at it, I mean, there's some tears in the fabric, right, on the arms and everything. So we don't have a piece that has everything that's really finely refined, right? and put together. It's more like a piece that's constructed using a lot of these kind of found materials that have a new life to it, right? Did anybody do any kind of research on Marita Dingus, some of her other work or ideas at all? Did anybody find anything interesting about that? Okay, can you talk to
I
that?
mean, I think you used the keyword discarded, which is in her artist statement.
Right,
The idea of finding discarded items in Africa, and how that relates back to the African American experience being taken from their land,
right,
used as slaves, and then when slavery was over, they were discarded, and they're still dealing with that fact. But
yes,
as the artist was showing, you know, being able to turn that into beauty and making a life out of it.
definitely. And kind of moving forward from that experience, from that trauma. Yeah, that's great. Did anybody read about anything else or see anything else in that?
There's also like a piece on like the environment and how it's also like environmentally aware, and how our experience on life is, you know, ultimately interwoven with where we live.
Right. So definitely her use of the materials is also something where she's ecologically or environmentally being aware, right? Of using things that maybe are going to be thrown out and what we call upcycling, right? Upcycling is when we do something and we're using it rather than throwing it away, we're making it have a new life, usually in a positive way, right? If we can do that. So that's another aspect of it.
I thought it was interesting that she used a cross over the washer instead.
Yeah,
Usually
Definitely.
Catholic churches, like they refine themselves in, you know, good materials with crosses.
right, right. So that is interesting, again, in terms of what this might represent in terms of the cross and the materials too. That's a great observation, Ben. And do you have any thoughts as to why she might have used that? I mean, it goes with the rest of the sort of found objects that she's using otherwise too.
I guess it was just like, for me, it was like, she used the washes to make the skirt or
Yeah.
something to create that sound, to make a piece other than just looking at it, like that could create some type of other sense.
Right,
So when creating that symbol of like a cross, it's usually don't think of a cross as a washer.
right,
So I was like, okay, maybe she wants you to think of different things.
yeah. So again, it's like using a form and a symbol that we recognize, but not in a conventional sense with a conventional material. Yeah, definitely. Karen, do you have some thoughts? I don't know, you were talking about also another religion, right? That we were speaking of a little bit before. Do you remember that discussion that we had?
I think I mentioned that it was reminiscent to like voodoo dolls to me.
Right,
And with Allison, how they made the connection of like African culture.
yeah,
For me, it like kind of came across as like Christianizing them.
right,
So that's kind of how I see it.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I thought of the voodoo doll too, and it's interesting, like a lot of Christian people will demonize.
sometimes other cultures that way it can be. Yeah. So is there anything else that you guys had any thoughts or observations on? Maybe if you can come around over there, then I don't have to move this around quite as much.
You've seen voodoo doll, but I was thinking like more child's doll, because if you ever see like the movie Mulan, they're like leaning like this, so I don't know why, but it seems like it's just, that arm is just great for grabbing, and that foot is great to showcase it,
Right,
and then it's like that foot is forward, that's why it's cut off, that one's to the side, because to the side, it's weird, but. So, you know, I don't think it's a doll.
yeah, so you're almost seeing implied motion in it to a degree, yeah.
Yeah, it's shaking.
That's great. Yeah, definitely. So you can almost imagine it like dancing
Being used.
and being used. Yeah, definitely. That's great. That's a great observation. Anything else that you guys have thought about?
You know, it wasn't until I was like close up, and I think we were kind of talking about like the detachment between like the face and body, but you can actually like see the glue resin like right up there.
Right,
I was like, you know, probably not just a mistake, but intentional that you're seeing the glue.
yeah. And for a lot of us making artwork, like if you left glue on your piece like that, what would one of us say? As you're supposed
not done.
to- You get your points knocked off.
Maybe not if you can explain why.
Maybe not if you can explain, if there was an intention behind that, right?
Exactly, yeah.
But you have to have a good intention for it, right?
Well, now I know.
Now you know, right? And a student might say, oh, well, you know, I kind of meant for that to crack. But if the crack doesn't look convincingly formed in such a way where it has a purpose to what the piece is, then, you know, I might question that a little bit. But Allison, I think you're right on. It's not only that little bit of glue there, but it kind of fits with the aesthetic of the rest of the handling of like the fabric and the edges of being torn, right? So there's a quality of, you know, not having it as entirely refined and finished, right, that we might think of. So I think for some people, they might look at this work and they might think, oh, geez, the artist was kind of being maybe a little sloppy, right? A little loose, fast and loose with the way they're handling the materials. But when you start to think about all the different elements that have gone together in this and what the intent of the piece is, right, what the artist might be trying to express, then it might make a little more sense for some of those qualities in it.
And the credentials, I think, plays a big role as well.
The what does?
Credentials
The
of
cre-
the artist,
Okay,
you know, that kind of helps mold your opinion or how you think about it.
right. So when you say credentials, what do you mean, Eric?
Well, the artist, you know, has a history of like being educated, knowledgeable about art. So
Right,
with that being said, you take everything that they've done into detail rather than somebody who really, you know, hasn't been through the system of, you know, a random piece that they put together. It's not the same.
right, right. So you could also see that this artist is pretty serious based on the body of work and history of what she's done in the past.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. So yeah, the artist's like kind of history and reputation and time in the field, yeah, definitely makes a difference. That's definitely a good point. All right, well, you guys, we are very much at a point where I'd like us to honor and celebrate our contribution for talking about and discussing Marita Dingus's Black figure with skirt and cross today. So thank you. Let's give a little round of applause for us. So, all right, good job. And I will stop the recording.